Where's Abigail? No?
Can't make it today.
Okay.
Okay, welcome to Apples from the Orchard. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, to class studying apples from the orchard for the second time, beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth, Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel, of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Today we are up to page 633, first chapter of Emor. It would be helpful if I opened. Okay, this goes up to 32. I'm not sure if I finished either. Okay, first part is fairly straightforward. The Torah gives a mitzvah to hold the four plants together on Sukkot. Torah refers to them mostly by description, and the oral Torah explains the popular term and identifies them. The oral Torah identifies them by the top popular term. Beautiful fruit of a tree is an esrog. Date palms, a lulav. A branch of a thick tree is the hadas, English called myrtle, and the willow of the brook is a rava or willow. Okay, Alan, please begin. Page 633.
The four plants. You shall take for yourselves on the first day of Sukkot the fruit of the beautiful tree, date palms, a branch of the thick bow tree, and willows of the brook. The sages explain the fruit of the beautiful tree is the esrog. Date palms refers to the palm stem, lulav. A branch of the thick bow tree is the myrtle, hadas, and willows of the brook is the willow branch, arva.
The Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai explained in the Zohar that these correspond to the 7 lower spheros and the 4 letters of Havaya. Hashem's name, Yud, and then the Hey, and then the Vav, and then the Hey. Okay, go ahead.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai explained that these plants allude to the 7 spheros that built the world and the 4 letters of the name Havaya. The 7 midos are referred to as the 7 spheros of building the world, for they manifest in the material world as the 7 days of creation.
Okay, so you know there are 10 spheros, and the first 3 we say are intellect, and the lower 7 are emotions. Really, that is the spheres as they exist within a person, within the neshama. As they are, and then within the neshama, they're not spheres. They're 10, I don't know, like powers of the soul. And they're 10 powers of the soul. As they are in spheres, though, I guess we call them intellect. I'm not sure if we call them emotions also. Here, I could be that we do find them called emotions. They're sometimes called the seven building blocks of the world. They call it spheres of building. I'm gonna call them here Usually I call them in the class of emotions, so we know what we're talking about. Okay, so Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that there are 3 branches of the hadas of the myrtle. This corresponds to the first 3 spheres of emotions: Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes. So in numbers of spheres, it's number 4, 5, and 6, right? That said, Chachma, Bina, Das are the intellect, 1, 2, and 3, and then come the emotions, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes. The word thick, a branch of a thick tree, or a thick branch of a tree, refers to the leaves. The leaves of the hadas come in 3s. 3 leaves grow together from one place on the stem. In fact, if you look closely at your myrtle branches, you'll see that it grows that the leaves come out in layers. Three leaves from one spot on the stem. Go down whatever, an eighth of an inch, a quarter inch, the next three. Go down a quarter of an inch, the next three, and so on. There are some that aren't three, but they're two and one as you go down the branch. 2, 1, 2, 1. And it's preferable to get ones that come out with three on from the same spot on the stem. Kabbalistically, this idea of being thick means the first letter of Havaya is expanded twice. That is that the Yud is not only the letter Yud, but it's expanded, so it's Yud Vav Daled. And then the double expansion means that we take each three letters of the expanded spelling and expand those. So it's Yud Vav Daled for Yud, Vav Aleph Vav for the Vav in the Yud, and Daled Lamed Daled for the Daled in the expanded spelling of Yud. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Doesn't say Damad Lamed Daled.
Where are we?
You don't have written Damad Lamed, do you?
Daled Lamed Taf.
You said Daled Lamed Daled. That's why.
No, Daled Lamed Taf is Daled.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me.
Okay, it's confused.
Yes, I'm very confused.
To explain, the Hadass manifests Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes, which in turn are alluded to by the letter Yud spelled out. According to Jewish law, we must hold a minimum of 3 Hadass branches in order to fulfill this commandment. The 3 Hadass branches therefore allude to the primary triplet of the 7 Midos, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes. The letter Yud is spelled out with 3 letters, Yud, Vav, Daled.
Continue.
Inasmuch as the leaves of the Hadass must be triplets, this indicates that we should consider the Yud spelled out twice, that is, expanded into its 3rd iteration, like this: Yud Vav Daled, Vav Aleph Vav, Damed Lamed Taf. In order for the Hadass to be valid, its leaves must issue in triplets from the same point on the branch for at least a length of 3 handbreadths. Thus, the triplet of Hadass branches becomes 9 Hadass leaves, alluding to the additional iteration of the letter Yud.
Oh, 3 handbreadths.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't catch that first time. So that's 3, a triplet of leaves. All the leaves are in triplets, and it's for 3 handbreadths. So I guess that becomes 9, corresponding to 9 letters of the double expanded spelling.
How long is a handbreadth?
Like this. About 3 inches. 3.5 inches.
It'll vary from person to person. Sort of there's
How much is a foot?
A foot is 12 inches, but a handbreadth,
But how do you know how much an inch is?
it's an inch. But
How do you know how much an inch is?
the ruler says so.
Because it's a 12th of a foot. But how much is a foot? Your foot, Alan, is much bigger than my
Wrong
foot.
foot, different foot.
That's right.
It was the king's food.
Explain, Guillermo.
No idea.
No, explain.
An inch is easy. It's 2.54
I
centimeters.
heard the rumors that everything was based on some British king and his thumb and his foot and whatever.
But
at least in metric, we had something in Paris, platinum rods. It was beautiful. Now it's all definitions have changed. But in my time,
Your time.
yeah,
What
it was
Gerson
an
means?
X.
What X?
There was X made of platinum, so it wouldn't change with temperature. And that was a meter held in Paris.
What Gershon means is that people measured in feet, but it caused great problems. So they made a standard size of a foot, and that's the standard. So the same thing
which I know nothing about it.
The same thing that happened with foot happened with hand breath.
That's why I asked how long it was.
There was a standard. Yeah, but you said that the hand breath is not everyone's hand breath is the same. So
you told me about 3 inches. Then I understood.
So they came up with a standard size of foot. The same way they came up with the standard size of a cubit, or an arm, and the same standard size of a hand breath. Okay, number 4. The next item.
Sorry, Wikipedia thinks it's 4 inches.
Tefach?
The hand is not a System International unit of measurement of length standardized to 4 inches.
That would be according to the Chazon Ish. He has big sizes for the Shiurim. Next item are the 2 branches of Arava. It corresponds to the next spheras, Netzach and Hod, and to the second letter of Havaya, expanded once. Hey, hey. 2 branches, hey, hey. The second letter of Havaya. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
The 2 willow branches manifest Netzach and Hod and are alluded to by the spelling out of the letter hey. Hey, hey. We must hold 2 willow branches in performing this commandment. Netzach and Hod are always considered a pair.
Okay. You did that hey, hey very well. You sound like Bob Barr. He used to say that when he walked into the room. Hey, hey. 5. The lulav corresponds to Yesod and to the third letter of Hashem's name, expanded Vav. The lulav is shaped like the letter Vav, and each long leaf is doubled over, like 2 Vavs. They're attached on one side. The leaves are very long. They're attached on one side, and on the other side they're open. So it'd be like 2 Vavs flapping in the wind. Okay, go ahead, Alan. The lulav.
The lulav manifests Yesod, which alludes to the spelling out of the Vav. Vav, Vav. The lulav must be straight, alluding to the straight line of the Vav. It is valid if the 2 halves of its central leaf are connected for the majority of its length. These 2 halves allude to the 2 Vavs used to spell out the Vav.
Okay. 6. The Esra corresponds to Malchus and to the last letter of Avaya, expanded once. Hey. Go ahead.
The esrog manifests Malchus, alluding to the final hey, spelled out as hey, hey.
Go ahead.
Thus, the 4 plants are actually 7.
7. So first of all, Malchus. It doesn't say why esrog is expanded, why it's double hey. And I don't know. The 4 plants are actually 7 because we have 3 branches of hadas, of myrtle, 2 branches of arava, willow, makes 5, 1 lulav, 6, and the esrog is 7. And the 7 correspond, this Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Zohar, to the 7 lower spheres, the 7 spheres that correspond to the emotions. The letters of Havaya, he does not elaborate. I think this is it. But so now, if we go for the 7 spheres, which of the 4 plants or the 4 kinds comes first? Don't everybody answer now at once. Which of the four kinds comes first in spheres?
From top to bottom would be
The one for Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes
yeah.
is
Gebura, Chesed and Gebura on the same level, so those are
no,
we just read Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes
they're in the
is
middle.
what middle?
I don't know of the
We
seven.
just stop.
Yeah.
Back up. We just associated the four kinds, four species, with the seven spheres. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. Okay?
Yes.
What was the first one that we explained?
the
The
wheel.
Hadas.
I'll give you a hint. It's in number 3.
The Hadas.
Yes, the Hadas, the myrtle, is for Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. What's the next one we explained?
The Arba.
Arava, willow.
The Arava.
Thank you, Alan. Which is for Netzach and Hod. What's the next one?
Lulav.
The lulav is for Yesod. And the last was
Yesrog.
Ezra for
Esther
Malchus.
from Malchus. So we just explained them in order of the spheres. That's first comes Hadas, the myrtle. Next comes willow arava. Next comes the lulav, and next comes the esrom. Okay, and we also associate them with the four letters of Havaya. The arav, the myrtle in Hadas, is with the first letter Yud. The arava, is with the willow is with the first letter Hey, and the lulav with Vav, and the esrog with the final Hey. Okay. Now, let's go back to the beginning. What's the order in the Torah? Esrog,
Oh, the Ezra.
lulav,
Lulav.
Hadas, a myrtle, and arava.
Yeah.
Which in Spiras, esrog was Malchus, that was last. Lulav was Yesod, that's second to last. The third in the Torah is the Hadas, which was
The first three.
the first three. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. And then comes the willow, Arava, which is Netzach and Hod. So A and B, the Torah begins going from the bottom up, but then switches to going to the top down. So it's out of order. And the Torah is listed out of order.
Yeah.
Okay. So next, until the bottom of page 635, there are a series of questions. Number 7, we did 7. 8, this raises a number of questions. First of all, the Torah does not list them in order of the spheres from top to bottom or from the bottom to the top. That's question number 1. Gershon, are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
634 now.
Now, according to this explanation, the Torah lists them neither in ascending nor descending order. Logically, it should have begun with the Hadas, which alludes to the Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, and continued with the willow, which alludes to Netzach, Hod, etc. Or it should have begun with the Esrog, proceeded with the Lulav, and continued with the Arava and before the Hadas.
Okay, so they're out of order. Or the first two are in ascending order from the bottom to the top, and the last two are in descending order from top to bottom. Second question. There is a teaching that aligns the four plants with parts of the body, and I'm fairly certain it's a medrash somewhere. The lulav corresponds to the spine. You guys might not be familiar with it. The esrog is for the heart. The lulav is for the spine. The arava, which has a wide leaf, is for the mouth. And the myrtle, which has a more narrow leaf, corresponds to the eye. So here in this question, we're focusing on the lulav that corresponds to the spine. But the lulav, we said, corresponds to yesod, which is not the spine, it's below the spine. As we know, we're familiar with, the yesod corresponds to the male organ. Of course, we're going to spend a lot of time there later in the chapter. It's below the spine. Tiferes, which we said is hadas, the myrtle, is with the spine. Tiferes is the focus or ground zero for Zer Anpin, for the 6 spheros. So if Hadas is, Hadas is Netzach Chesed Vur Tiferes, then Tiferes would be the spine. But we say that the lulav corresponds to the spine, so that does not match the teaching in the Zohar. Okay, go ahead, Gershon.
Furthermore, the lulav alludes to the 18 vertebra of the spinal column. And yesod is not part of the spinal column, for Tiferes is manifest in the spinal column, and all 18 vertebrae are part of it, not yesod. Yesod is below the 18 vertebrae of the spinal column, as we see physically. Another question. Continue? No.
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 Wait for the teacher.
Yes.
What's that? I forgot what it's called. I saw it last week. Sides, 5 years. 10. Why are 3 plants tied together? That's the lulav, hadas, and arava, but the esrog is not tied with them. We had this in the Gemara. What?
No, I'm looking at the blue underline, and I think he wants to remove the comma after the esrog. I think. No, the etrog.
I think he wants, why are the 3 plants tied together?
No, that was fine. That comma was fine, but after the well, whatever. Microsoft. The comma after estrog.
That's ChatGPT for you. We had this in our Gemara class maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and there are different opinions whether they all get tied together. Well, I mean, why if the 3 of them get tied together, they don't get tied together, and it was a whole discussion there. I don't remember all details, but this is discussed in the Gemara. But now we're asking in Kabbalah. Okay, 635.
Another question. When we move the 4 plants, we do so in all 4 directions. No. Another question. If the estrog is one of the 4 plants, why don't we tie it together with the others, making one bundle? The other 3 plants, the lulav, hadas, and arava, are bound together, while the estrog is held separately and just attached to the group of the other 3.
Okay, 11. We wave the 4 plants to the 4 directions, up and down, and up and down. We wave them in order of the spheres. There are different customs here. But, and I know, before I go ahead, everyone's going like, okay, shake it to the right, shake it to the left, shake it in front of you. That only works if you're facing east. If you're stopping somebody on the street and you're just saying, okay, here, shake it to the right and left and so on, it doesn't work. It's really the direction. So if you're facing north, then you got to adjust and follow this way. This is why we say face east before, then right matches chesed, south, and right matches south. So we wave them in order of the spheres. South is chesed, north is gvura, east tiferes, up netzach, down is hod, west is yesod. I don't know why these 6 directions associate with the 6 of the spheres, except for the last one. And he explains here. Ma'arav is west. But Ma'arav also means, because it means, like we say, Hamariv Aravim.
Sunset, yeah.
And that means that it's I guess it's getting dark. But so therefore, since the sun sets in the west, so therefore Myriv is the word that we use for west. But Myriv also has another meaning. It also means to mix. And that fits very well because the previous spheres are mixed in Yesod. They all coalesce in Yesod. Chesed, V'ur, Tiferes, Nesach, and Hod. But there is no movement. That means that we have now for the six spheres, but there's no movement for Malchus. For Malchus, we don't shake the Esrog in any direction. There's no movement for Esrog, which corresponds to Malchus. Okay, Gershon, another question.
Another question. When we move the 4 plants, we do so in all 4 directions, up and down, and up and down. These correspond to the Sephiros as follows. South manifests Chesed, north manifests Geburah, east manifests Tiferes, up manifests Netzah, down manifests Hod, west manifests Yesod, in which all the other lights coalesce, as is known. And for Malchus, which is manifest in the Esrog, we do not make any movement at all. The word for west, Marab, comes from the word for to mix, Lared, but it is in the west that the day blends gradually into evening.
Okay, that's interesting. I never heard that. There is apparently should be an obvious movement for Esrog because in the Medrash I said before that the 4 plants correspond to the parts of the body. The Esrog corresponds to the heart. And as we move the lulav and esrog in each direction, we pull it back to the heart. So we go to the south, back to the heart, to the north, back to the heart, and so on. So I'm going to say that the movement to the person himself is to the heart is with the esrog, but this is the question here. 12, by contrast, on Hoshana Rabbah, we make 7 circuits around the bima. So there is a circuit for Malchus too, because we have 7. We wave the 4 plants on the 7th day of Sukkot, which corresponds to Malchus. So why is Malchus included for walking around the bima and waving the 7th day of Sukkot, but not when we wave the 4 plants in the different directions? That's next. Another question. No, we just did that. In contrast.
You want me to read?
Yes, please.
In contrast, in the circuits Hakafot, made with the Torah and Simchas Torah, there is a 7th circuit. Moreover, the lulav and the other 3 plants are held and moved on the 7th day of Sukkot. So, why, with regard to the days of moving, there is a day for Malchus, while with regard to the movements in particular, there is not?
Okay, I don't think it's the circuits made with the Torah and Simchas Torah. I think because the Hebrew doesn't say that. The Hebrew leaves it out, just as the circuits. I think it's talking about the circuits we do on Hoshana Rabbah.
Mm-hmm.
Thirteen. Esrog corresponds to the heart, but it also corresponds to Malchus, and Malchus is the lowest of the spheres, not at the level of heart. We will see later that Esrog is the tip of Yesod, which seems to have no connection to the heart. I think. Okay, go ahead. You can do that question.
Another question. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said that the esrog corresponds to the heart, while Malchus is the lowest sephira. The heart is generally associated with Tiferes, not Malchus.
You have to read the next one too.
And when we explain, as we will later, please Hashem, that the esrog manifests the crown of Yesod, this will give rise to the question of what connection is there between the crown of Yesod with the heart. The latter is one of the internal organs, while the former is one of the external organs.
14. If the Hadas corresponds to the eyes, Why are there three branches of Hadass? Aliens, Martians.
The eye, the third eye, of course. Finally, the Hadassim correspond to the eyes, so why are there three of them? There are only two eyes, not three.
Okay. So we got a bunch of questions here. I think 7 questions. Um, 7 questions. So this is what we're going to do. I actually prepared till the end of the chapter, which is 639. But I think it's too much to do in one day. We're never going to finish by 8:30. So we'll do a little bit more, and then we'll save the rest for next week.
Okay.
At this point, the Arizal says he has to introduce the answer with an explanation that goes on for 3 pages. But the answer to the questions is not spelled out. Perhaps he does not explicitly answer the questions, but perhaps he'll be able to figure out the questions from his explanation. Until here, things have been fairly straightforward and not complicated. From here, they get extremely complicated. So, what he says is, each of the spheres, and like I said, we'll do like half of the page. Each of the spheres has 2 aspects, an inner aspect and an outer aspect. The inner aspect is usually called the light, and the outer aspect usually called the container. It's called Iris Vikalim. It would be like a glass and what you pour into the glass. So we have the light, that's the inner part of the sphera. It's the spiritual part of the sphera, and then the container, which can't say the physical part of the sphera, but if the sphere would have a physical part, that would be the container or the outer part. Okay, 636. Yitzchak, are you able to read?
Yes, yeah, I'm here. It's to answer all of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, to answer all of this, you first is it you first you have to
First, yeah.
is that a typo or something? You
No,
have first
you have
to
first
understand the following. As you know, the spirit are composed of their essence and their vessel, which are like a soul and a body. These essence or content of the sphera is also known as its light.
Okay. 17. This explanation will focus on the inner aspect, the light of the sphera. The light of the sphera itself has 3 aspects: inner, middle, and outer. The outer aspect is called nefesh, the middle aspect is called ruach, and the inner aspect is called neshama. Of course, these are the same terms used for 3 parts of a person's soul. From bottom up, nefesh, ruach, and neshama.
The word is aspects, not absects.
That's how we do it in Chicago.
Chicago. Well, we're not in Chicago now.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Yitzchak.
We are not speaking now of the vessels. We are speaking only of the inner entity of the spirit, which divides into an inner, middle, and outer aspect, known as the nefesh, ruach, and neshama of the sphera in reverse order. Nefesh, the animating soul, ruach, spirit, and neshama, breath, are 3 synonyms for the soul, and generally are used to indicate the instinctive, emotional, and intellectual aspects of the soul. Here they are used to describe the 3 aspects of the divine light within each sphera.
Okay. All right. You know, there was a robbery pulled off. Several cases of esrogs. Yeah, police suspect it's the work of the Hoshana Rabbah.
Oh,
Okay. Nefesh,
oh.
18. Nefesh is associated with Elokim. Ruach is associated with Havaya. And Neshama is associated with expanded spelling of Havaya. So according to this, expanded spelling of Havaya is higher than Havaya. Okay, go ahead, Yitzhak.
The nefesh of the sphera is the aspect manifest as the name Elohim. The ruach is the aspect manifest as the name Havaya, and the neshama is the aspect manifest as a spelling out of the name Havaya.
Okay. And now, so we said first that every sphera has two parts, an outer part, the container, and an inner part, the light. It's like a body and soul for the sphera. The light of the sphera, we divide it into three: nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Then, within those three, there are also forms of, and we associate them with names of Hashem. Nefesh, Elokim, ruach, Havaya, and neshama, an expanded spelling of Havaya. But there are also forms of names of Havaya that power these as well. I guess that's behind them, or above them, powering them. One is the name Havaya. One is expanded spelling of Havaya, and one is only the initial of Havaya, the letter Yud. Again, that appears to be from the bottom up. A straight Havaya would be Nefesh. I'm sorry, it would be Nefesh. Higher than that, to include Ruach, would be expanded spelling, and then the one that would include Neshama, the highest, would just be the initial, the letter Yud. And it wasn't clear to me, but it appears to say that Havaya is the life force of Nefesh. Expanded spelling of Havaya is the life force of Nefesh and Ruach, and the letter Yud is the life force of all three. Concentric circles. Big fish, little fish. Describe it however you want. Okay? So let's go ahead. The next one. They also possess.
They also possess a simple name Havaya, which is a neshama to it, and a further neshama to both of them, a name Havaya spelled out, and yet a further neshama to them all, a simple Yud. All this will be explained in its context. Please, God.
Okay, thank you. Now, in the next few pages, he doesn't explain any of this. So I'm not sure where he explains this. It could be he's been como elsewhere, somewhere where it's important to know. It's not explained here. It's now 8:17. Until here, what we've learned has been pretty straightforward. After here, it goes into great detail, and I would feel much more comfortable leaving it for next week. Again, I sent you the notes. I did finish the chapters. I did finish them in the notes. You could look ahead. You probably won't get anywhere, but he does not come back to the Lulav and Esrog and stuff. However, based on what he says, maybe we can figure it out. It might shed some light on it. Okay. So we're gonna stop it here. Where are we? And we'll pick it up. We'll pick up next week. We'll pick up next week. Wait, let me get off the. Give me a minute, guys. First, we got to stop the share. Then I'm going to